The arena floated in silence at the edge of a dying blue star. Its massive ring of silver and crystal turned slowly, catching the light of the fading sun and spreading it across the endless dark of space. Ships from 1,000 worlds surrounded it like glowing insects, each one carrying warriors, leaders, and watchers who had come to see power on display. This was the grand convergence. Here, species did not talk about peace. They showed strength. They proved who deserved to lead the galaxy. Elias Marin stood at the center platform, feeling very small. He was human. He wore a simple gray uniform with no armor plates, no glowing lines of energy, and no visible tools. His boots were plain. His hands were empty. Around him, the ground trembled under the steps of creatures built for battle. To his left stood a towering warrior from the Car Dominion, covered in black metal armor that moved like living skin. 4 mechanical arms rested at its sides, each one holding a different kind of weapon. Its red eyes scanned the crowd as if already choosing targets. To his right was a sleek floating being made of light and crystal. It did not walk. It drifted above the ground, surrounded by a soft field of blue energy that hummed quietly. No one knew what weapons it carried, but everyone knew it had ended wars on its own. Elias could feel their stares. Not just from the fighters, but from the millions watching across the galaxy. He could almost hear their thoughts. Why is the human here? Humans were new to the stars. They had only joined the Galactic Accord a few decades ago. They had no great fleets, no ancient machines, no legends of world-breaking power. They were known for trading, exploring, and talking more than fighting. The laughter began softly, like a ripple through water. Some species made clicking sounds. Others flashed colors of amusement across their skin. A few openly pointed at Elias and spoke in loud, mocking tones that translators quickly turned into clear words in his earpiece. He has no armor. Where is his weapon? Is this a joke? Elias kept his eyes forward. His heart beat fast in his chest, but he did not move. He had known this would happen. The Human Council had told him he was not sent to win. He was sent to represent. Still, standing alone under the weight of so many eyes was harder than he had imagined. Above the arena, a massive screen displayed the symbols of the competing civilizations. Each one glowed with power and history. When the human symbol appeared, it was small and simple, a blue circle with a single white star. The announcer's voice echoed across space, deep and powerful. Warriors of the galaxy, leaders of the stars, the convergence begins. A wave of energy rolled across the platform as the arena's systems activated. Barriers rose around the combat zones. Drones moved into place, ready to record every moment. Elias took a slow breath. He reminded himself why he was here. Then the light changed. The blue star behind the arena dimmed, as if something had passed in front of it. Shadows spread across the platform. The crowd grew quiet, not with respect, but with fear. A massive shape appeared in the sky. It was not a ship. It was alive. The alien queen of Vierks descended like a falling moon. Her form was long and graceful, covered in shifting layers of silver and deep purple. Wings made of thin, glowing membranes spread wide, casting patterns of light across the arena. Her eyes burned with a soft white fire that seemed to look through things, not at them. The convergence was not meant to include her. She did not follow the rules of the Galactic Accord. She was older than most civilizations in the arena. Her species did not compete. They observed. They judged. Every warrior froze, every ship went silent. The queen landed at the edge of the platform, and the ground did not shake. Instead, the air itself seemed to bend around her. The announcer's voice failed. The screens flickered and went dark. The queen stepped forward. Her gaze moved across the warriors. She did not look at their weapons. She did not look at their armor. She did not look at their size or strength. Then her eyes stopped. They rested on Elias. The human felt a strange warmth spread through his chest, mixed with a deep, heavy pressure like standing at the bottom of a vast ocean. The crowd erupted again, but this time not with laughter, with confusion, with anger, with fear. The queen walked past the car warrior, past the floating being of light, past champions who had crushed planets and burned fleets. She stopped in front of the unarmed human. Elias swallowed. He straightened his back. He met her eyes. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the queen spoke. Her voice did not come through speakers. It appeared inside every mind in the arena at once, clear and calm. You carry no blade, no shield, no fire. Elias did not answer. He was not sure if he was allowed to. You stand among those who seek to rule through force, the queen continued. Yet you do not reach for power. The human's hands remained at his sides. The queen raised one long, glowing hand and pointed at him. This one will walk the path. The words fell like a stone into still water. The arena exploded with sound. Protests filled the air. Warriors shouted. Leaders demanded explanations. The convergence rules were clear. The strongest were meant to compete. The queen had just ignored them all. Elias felt his stomach drop. The path was not a fight. Everyone knew that. It was worse. It was an ancient trial created long before the arena was built. A test of mind, memory, and spirit. Most species refused to even speak its name. Those who entered it often did not come out the same. The car warrior stepped forward, weapons shifting and locking into place. "This is an insult," it growled. "Choose a true champion." The queen did not turn to face it. "Strength breaks," she said calmly. "I seek what endures." Her eyes stayed on Elias. The ground beneath the platform began to glow with soft white lines, forming a circle around him. The air inside it shimmered like heat rising from stone. Elias felt the world pull away from him. The sounds of the crowd faded. The stars above blurred. The queen's form became a distant shape, then everything went dark. He stood in a wide, empty field under a gray sky. The air smelled like rain and smoke. In the distance, he could see shapes moving, cities, ships, people. The path had begun. Elias took a step forward. The ground changed beneath his feet. The field became a ruined street. Broken buildings leaned against each other, their windows dark and empty. Sirens wailed in the distance. He recognized this place. It was Earth. Not as it was now, but as it had been during one of its darkest wars. He saw humans running. He saw fear on their faces. He saw fire in the sky. His chest tightened. The path did not hide pain. It showed it. He walked through the scene as if he were a ghost. The people did not see him. He watched as a child fell and an older woman pulled them up and kept running. He watched strangers share food in the shadow of burning towers. The scene shifted. Now he stood on a barren world under a red sun. Human explorers moved carefully across the dust, planting a small flag near a simple shelter. Their faces were tired, but they were smiling. The path showed him failure and hope, loss and rebuilding side by side. He felt tears form in his eyes, but he did not stop walking. The images changed again. He saw humans meeting aliens for the first time. Hands raised, not in fists, but in greeting. He saw treaties signed not with blood, but with shared knowledge and trust. The weight in his chest grew heavier, but also warmer. Back in the arena, the crowd watched in silence. On the massive screens, Elias' journey played out in light and shadow. Species who had only known conquest saw something new. They saw a civilization that had broken itself and put itself back together. They saw people who had stood at the edge of extinction and chosen to reach forward instead of striking out. The queen watched closely. Inside the path, Elias came to a final place. It was empty space. Stars stretched in every direction, bright and distant. In front of him floated a simple image, a small blue world with white clouds and green land, his home. A voice, softer than the Queen's, spoke around him. "Why do you walk forward when you could turn back?" Elias did not know where the words came from. He did not know if they were meant for him alone. He thought of Earth, of its mistakes, of its wars, of its small, quiet moments of kindness that never made history books. "Because we always have," he said softly. The stars around him pulsed with light. The path began to fade. Back in the arena, the circle of light around Elias dimmed. The shimmer in the air disappeared. He stood once more on the platform, breathing hard, his eyes wide. The crowd was silent. The queen stepped forward. The laughter from before was gone. She lowered her head slightly, a gesture few had ever seen from her kind. "The path has opened," she said, "and it has not closed." She turned to face the galaxy. "This human carries a power you do not measure, a strength you do not fear because you do not yet understand it." Elias looked around at the warriors, the leaders, the watchers in the stars. Some looked confused, some looked thoughtful, some looked afraid. The queen's eyes returned to him. "You are not a weapon," she said. The blue star behind the arena flared slightly, as if listening. "You are a beginning." The arena remained silent, waiting for what would come next. The silence in the arena did not break all at once. It faded slowly, like a held breath being released across 1,000 worlds. Screens flickered back to life. Ships shifted in their orbits. The low hum of engines and systems returned to the background of space. Elias Marin stood where he was, his legs still feeling weak from the path. His mind felt stretched, like he had walked through years instead of moments. The images of Earth, of stars, of voices that were not quite voices, stayed with him like echoes in a deep room. The alien queen of Vierks turned away from him and faced the crowd. Her wings folded gently against her sides, glowing softly in the light of the dying star. "The trial is not finished," her voice said inside every mind. "The path does not end with one step, it opens a door." A ripple of unease passed through the watching species. Doors meant change. Change meant risk. The car warrior took a heavy step forward again, metal limbs clanking against the platform. "What does this human open?" it demanded. "And who decides what walks through?" The queen's gaze shifted, and for the first time it rested on the armored giant. "The galaxy decides," she replied, "by what it chooses to become." She lifted one hand, and the air above the platform began to glow. Lines of light formed shapes, turning into a wide, spinning image of star systems, trade routes, and borders of influence. The map of the known galaxy hung in the air like a living thing. "This is not balance," she said. "This is tension, pressure, 1,000 hands pulling in different directions." The image tightened, lines growing red where conflicts burned, where fleets gathered, where worlds stood on the edge of war. Elias watched, his chest heavy. He recognized some of the places. Human colonies sat like small blue dots between much larger powers. "The path has chosen a bearer," the queen continued. "Not a ruler, not a conqueror, a signal." The image shifted. At the center of the galaxy, a soft white light appeared. It pulsed gently, spreading thin lines outward, touching system after system. Where the lines reached, the red marks faded. The crowd murmured. Elias felt a strange pull in his chest, like the light on the map was connected to him somehow. "What is this?" he asked before he could stop himself. The queen turned back to him. "An ancient network," she said. "Built before your species learned to shape fire, before most here learned to shape thought. It carries more than data. It carries memory, emotion, understanding." Some leaders recoiled at that. Others leaned forward with interest. "Those who control it," the queen added, "do not command fleets. They shape how civilizations see one another." A chill ran through Elias. "That sounds like power," he said quietly. "It is," she replied, "and it is why no one has been allowed to touch it for 10,000 years." The car warrior raised one of its weapons, energy building along its edge. "Then this ends now." Before anyone could react, ships in orbit began to move, not just car ships. Others followed. Rival powers, old enemies, silent observers who had waited for something worth breaking the peace. The arena's sky filled with glowing trails as fleets shifted position, weapons charging. The convergence was collapsing. Elias looked up, his breath catching in his throat. The queen did not move. "This is why the path chose you," she said calmly. "Not because you are strong, but because you stand in the open." The platform beneath Elias began to rise, lifting him above the arena floor. A column of light surrounded him, soft but unbreakable. He felt the pull again, stronger now, like the stars themselves were leaning toward him. "What do I do?" he asked, his voice barely more than a whisper. "Be what you are," the queen answered. "Human." The first shots fired in space. Far above, two fleets exchanged bursts of light that flashed like small suns. The shockwaves rippled across the arena's shields. The watching crowd scattered, some fleeing, others shouting orders, others frozen in place. Elias felt fear rise in him, sharp and fast. He was not a soldier, he was not a leader. He was a representative who had expected speeches and handshakes, not war. The light around him shifted. Suddenly, he could feel more than the arena. He felt voices, not words, but impressions. Worry from a trader ship caught between two powers. Anger from a warrior who had lost a homeworld. Hope from a colony that just wanted to be left alone. It was too much. He gasped, gripping the air as if he could hold onto something solid. "Focus," the queen said gently. "Do not carry them, let them see each other." Elias closed his eyes. He thought of the path, of walking through Earth's past, of seeing pain and kindness in the same moment. He took a slow breath. Then he spoke. His voice did not travel through the air. It traveled through the light. Across ships, across stations, across worlds, beings heard him inside their minds, not as a command, but as a shared thought. "I don't know how to stop this," Elias said. "I don't know how to fix what's broken between you. I only know what we did when we stood on the edge of losing everything." The fighting in space did not stop, but it slowed. Weapons hesitated. Pilots blinked in their cockpits as images not their own filled their minds. Elias showed them a ruined city and a hand pulling someone from the ground. He showed them a first step on a dead world and a flag planted in dust. He showed them a table where enemies once sat and chose to talk instead of strike. "We failed," Elias continued. "A lot. We still do, but we learned something simple. You can't build a future alone, no matter how strong you are." The light from the ancient network spread farther. On a car battleship, a warrior saw the face of a human child laughing in low gravity. On a distant world of crystal beings, a leader felt the fear of a small human colony watching warships pass overhead. The Queen watched as the galaxy began to see itself through unfamiliar eyes. Some resisted. A group of ships broke from formation and fired again, trying to force the moment back into violence. The arena's shields flared bright as energy struck them. Elias flinched. "This isn't working," he said, panic creeping into his voice. "It is," the Queen replied, slowly. "That is how real change moves." The car warrior on the platform lowered one of its weapons. Its red eyes dimmed slightly. "I see," it rumbled, the words heavy and unsure. "Your people bleed like mine, your young fear like mine." Elias opened his eyes. The light around him softened. More ships powered down their weapons. Not all, but enough. The map of the galaxy above the arena shifted again. Red marks faded in small clusters like fires being put out one by one. The Queen stepped closer to Elias, her presence steady and calm in the storm of emotion and thought around them. "You will not be loved for this," she said. "Some will fear you, some will try to silence you, some will try to use you." Elias nodded. He already felt the weight of attention turning toward humanity, heavy and dangerous. "I don't want to be anything special," he said. "I just don't want this to be how it always ends." The Queen's wings shimmered with a soft glow. "That is why the path opened for you," she said. "Not because you seek to stand above, but because you are willing to stand between." The light began to fade. The voices grew quieter, retreating back into the minds they came from. Elias sank to his knees as the platform lowered him back to the arena floor. He felt exhausted, like he had run across worlds instead of standing in one place. Around him, the convergence had changed. Warriors stood uncertain. Leaders whispered to each other. The sky above was calmer, fleets holding position instead of advancing. The Queen turned away from Elias and faced the galaxy once more. "This moment will not last," she said. "Peace never does on its own. It must be chosen again and again." Her eyes returned to the human. "And now," she added, "so must you." Elias looked up at the stars, at the ships, at the countless lives watching him without laughter for the first time. He realized something then. He had come to represent humanity. He was leaving as something else, a bridge. The arena waited, the galaxy listening, as the next step in a future no one had planned began to take shape. The days that followed did not feel like days at all. Time inside the grand convergence blurred as ships came and went. Leaders argued, and quiet meetings filled the hidden chambers of the arena. Elias Marin was moved from the open platform into a tall, curved hall made of smooth, white stone and soft, glowing light. The walls seemed to breathe, slowly changing color as if listening to the voices inside. He was no longer alone. Delegates from dozens of species came to see him. Some came with respect, bowing or lowering their heads in strange ways. Others came with hard eyes and careful words, measuring him like a tool that might be useful or dangerous. Elias stood through it all, trying to stay the same person he had been before the path. But he could feel the ancient network inside him now, like a quiet river under the surface of his thoughts. It did not speak unless he reached for it, but it was always there. One evening, as the light in the hall dimmed to a deep blue, the alien queen of Vierks arrived without sound. Her wings folded close, and her glowing eyes softened as she looked at the human. "The galaxy is moving," she said. "Not in one direction, but it is moving." Elias leaned against the smooth wall, tired in a way that sleep did not fix. "That doesn't always mean it's moving toward something good." "No," the Queen agreed. "It means it is choosing." She lifted one hand, and the air between them filled with the image of a massive structure hidden deep in space. It floated near a dead star, surrounded by broken rings of ancient metal and silent stations. "The star loom," Elias whispered. He had felt it before through the network, a deep, steady presence like a heart that had been beating for thousands of years without anyone listening. "Many now know it exists," the Queen said. "Some wish to protect it, some wish to control it, some wish to destroy it." Elias frowned. "Why destroy it?" "Because it changes things they depend on," she replied. "Fear, borders, power. A quiet alarm echoed through the hall. The image of the star loom shifted. Small glowing dots appeared around it, ships. "Someone's moving," Elias said, straightening. "Not someone," the Queen corrected. "Several." The convergence was fracturing into sides. A coalition of older, powerful species believed the loom should be claimed and used to guide the galaxy in what they called a stable direction. Another group, smaller but fierce, believed no one should have that kind of influence and planned to erase it from existence. And in between them stood humanity, not with fleets, with Elias. A human escort ship carried him toward the dead star. It was small compared to the massive warships that now traveled in the same direction. Its hull was marked with the simple blue circle and white star, glowing softly in the dark. Inside, Elias sat in the observation chamber, staring out at the growing shape of the star loom. It was larger than any station he had ever seen. Rings of metal and light wrapped around a central core that pulsed with a slow, steady glow. He felt it reach for him. The ship docked at a narrow platform on the loom's outer ring. The doors opened and cold, still air filled the chamber. Elias stepped out. The silence was heavy. No wind, no hum of machines, just the soft pulse of light from the core far below. The Queen appeared beside him, her form reflected in the smooth surface beneath their feet. "This place listens," she said, "more than it speaks." Elias took a step forward, then another, walking toward a bridge of light that stretched over empty space. Halfway across, the first ships arrived. Warships from the Coalition dropped out of warp on one side of the dead star, their hulls bristling with weapons. On the other side, the smaller group's ships appeared, fast and sharp, moving into formation. The space around the loom became a silent battlefield. Elias stopped walking. "This is going to turn into a war," he said. "Yes," the Queen replied, "unless you make it something else." He closed his eyes and reached for the network. The loom responded. The bridge beneath his feet brightened, and the light spread outward, connecting to the ships on both sides. Screens flickered on in cockpits. Minds opened just a little whether their owners wanted them to or not. Elias spoke. "I didn't come here to take this from you," he said, "and I didn't come here to protect it for myself." He showed them the loom through his own eyes, not as a weapon, not as a throne, but as a memory of something old and patient, built by a species that had believed the galaxy could be more than a battlefield. "You think control will bring peace," Elias continued, "and you think destruction will bring safety. We thought those things too once." The first shots fired. A beam of energy streaked past the loom, missing the core by a narrow margin. The light flared and the entire structure seemed to shudder. Elias cried out as a wave of pain ran through the network. "Stop!" he shouted. Some ships hesitated, others did not. The Queen raised her wings, and a field of glowing light spread from her, blocking another blast aimed at the loom. "This is what power does," she said to Elias quietly. "It attracts those who believe only in force." Elias clenched his fists. He reached deeper into the network than he ever had before. The loom answered fully. The light surged not as a weapon, but as a flood of shared memory. Across every ship, across every command bridge, beings saw visions not just of humanity, but of their own pasts. A car commander saw their species, first world burn under a dying sun, and the hands that had pulled survivors from the ashes. A crystal being saw the moment their kind had chosen to leave their home system rather than fight a war that would have destroyed both sides. Even the leaders who had ordered the attack felt the weight of every life that decision touched. The firing stopped. Ships drifted, weapons still charged but silent. Elias fell to one knee, breathing hard. The Queen stepped closer, steadying him with one long, glowing hand. "You are pushing the loom beyond what it was meant to do," she warned. "I know," Elias gasped, "but it's not just a machine, it's a mirror they need to see themselves." A voice broke through the shared space. It came from one of the Coalition ships. "We do not want to rule you," the voice said. "We are afraid of what happens if no one leads." Another voice followed from the smaller group. "And we are afraid of what happens when someone does." Elias looked up at the vast, silent loom. "Maybe leadership doesn't have to mean standing above," he said. "Maybe it can mean standing together." The Queen's eyes glowed brighter. The light from the loom softened, changing from a blinding white to a warm, steady glow. Slowly, one by one, ships powered down their weapons. Not because they were forced to, but because for a moment they chose to. The dead star's faint light reflected off the metal rings of the loom, painting the scene in silver and blue. Elias stood, unsteady but determined. "I'm not asking you to trust me," he said. I'm asking you to trust what you just felt, what you just remembered. Silence filled the space again, but this time it was different. It was not the silence of fear or tension. It was the silence of thinking. The queen turned to Elias. You have done something few ever have, she said. You made them pause. Elias gave a tired, small smile. Humans are good at that. We mess things up. Then we stop and try to figure out how to fix them. The queen's wings folded gently. The galaxy will not forget this moment, she said. The loom's light began to dim, settling back into its slow, steady pulse. Around them, ships held their positions, no longer enemies in motion, but neighbors in uncertainty. Elias looked out at the stars and felt the weight of what he had started. This was not an ending. It was a question. And now, the entire galaxy had to decide how to answer it. The space around the star loom stayed quiet long after the ships powered down their weapons. Engines hummed at low strength, like 1,000 hearts beating carefully instead of racing. The dead star nearby cast a soft, pale light over everything, turning metal and glass into shades of silver and blue. Elias Marin stood on the glowing bridge, feeling the last echoes of the ancient network fade from his mind. His head felt heavy, but his thoughts were clear in a way they had never been before. He could still sense the presence of the loom, not as a voice, but as a steady awareness, like a calm ocean beneath a restless sky. The alien queen of Vierk stood beside him, her wings folded, her glowing eyes watching the ships around them. They are waiting, she said. Not for orders, for meaning. Elias looked at the fleets. Some ships had moved closer to the loom, careful and slow. Others kept their distance, as if unsure whether this place was safe or dangerous. I don't have a plan for a galaxy, Elias said quietly. I barely had a plan for today. The queen's lips curved in something close to a smile. That may be your greatest strength. A message signal lit up in front of Elias. It came from the human escort ship. Then another followed from a car vessel. Then another and another, until the air was filled with waiting voices from many species. They wanted to talk. The queen gestured, and a wide field of light spread out from the loom, forming a shared space where minds could meet without barriers of language or form. Elias took a breath and stepped forward into it. Faces did not appear, shapes did not appear. Instead, he felt presence, awareness, attention from every direction at once. A voice formed first, strong and careful. You have shown us what this machine can do, it said. Now tell us what you will do with it. Elias felt the weight of the question press down on him. This was the moment everyone had been moving toward, even if they had not known it. He thought of Earth, of its long history of leaders, good and bad, brave and fearful. Of how often power had promised safety and delivered something else. I'm not here to take it, he said, and I'm not here to guard it alone. A ripple of reaction passed through the shared space. Then what is humanity's claim? Another voice asked. Elias answered honestly. We don't have one. Silence followed, not the silence of thought this time, but the silence of surprise. We don't want to be the ones who decide the future for everyone, Elias continued. We want to be the ones who help everyone decide it together. The queen's presence felt steady and approving beside him. Elias reached back into the loom, not to pull its power, but to open its door. The light spread again, softer than before, reaching into the ships, the stations, the distant worlds watching through long-range links. This time it did not show memories. It showed paths, trade routes that could be shared instead of fought over, knowledge systems that could connect schools and researchers across species, warning networks that could alert entire regions to natural disasters or threats before they became tragedies. It showed what the galaxy could look like if the loom was not a throne, but a table. I don't want this to be a human thing, Elias said. I want it to be a everyone thing. One by one, voices responded. A car commander spoke first. We were taught that strength means standing alone, but we have lost worlds that way. A crystal being followed. We left our home to avoid war. Perhaps now we can help others avoid it too. A smaller, softer presence joined in. We are a young species, it said. We are afraid of being crushed between giants. This gives us hope. The shared space filled with agreement, concern, doubt, and cautious optimism. It was not perfect, it was not simple, but it was real. The queen stepped forward, her presence filling the space like a calm sky. This is the moment the path leads to, she said. Not unity, understanding, not peace that is declared, peace that is chosen. The loom responded, its core glowing brighter, steady, and warm. Elias felt a strange relief wash over him. He was no longer holding the weight alone. The fleets began to move not away but into new formations. Mixed groups of ships from different species traveled together, forming the first shared patrols not to control space, but to protect the network they were building. The human escort ship drifted closer to the bridge. A message came through from Earth. Elias hesitated before opening it. The face of the human council speaker appeared, eyes wide with disbelief and something like pride. "You were supposed to represent us," she said. "You ended up changing everything." Elias smiled faintly. "I didn't do it alone." Back on Earth, on car worlds, on crystal cities and floating stations, beings gathered around screens and shared spaces, watching what unfolded around the star loom. Children pointed. Elders whispered. Leaders argued and then paused, thinking longer than they usually did. Days passed, then weeks. The loom became a place of meeting instead of a place of fear. Stations were built nearby, not as fortresses, but as halls and centers of learning. Species shared stories, science, art, and warnings of dangers beyond known space. Elias stayed longer than he meant to. He walked through the new halls, listening more than speaking. He learned how different species saw the stars, how some feared the dark between systems, while others saw it as a home. The Queen visited often, always watching, always listening. "You have changed how they see you," she said one day, "and how they see themselves." Elias looked out through a wide window at the busy space beyond. Ships of different shapes and sizes moved together, their lights forming slow, beautiful patterns. "I don't feel like I did anything special," he said. The Queen tilted her head slightly. "Most who truly do never do." One quiet moment, Elias stood alone on the same glowing bridge where everything had nearly fallen apart. The loom pulsed beneath him, steady and calm. He felt something new then, not voices, not memories, trust. It was fragile like glass in a storm, but it was there. A small group of young beings from different species stood nearby, guided by their teachers. They looked at Elias with open curiosity, not fear or laughter. One of them, small and covered in soft blue scales, stepped forward. "Are you the human who didn't bring a weapon?" it asked. Elias knelt so he was closer to its height. "I guess I am." The child tilted its head. "Why?" Elias thought for a moment. "Because I already had one," he said gently. "I just didn't know it at first." The child looked confused but thoughtful. The Queen watched from a distance, her eyes glowing softly. Years later, long after Elias returned to Earth, stories spread across the galaxy. They did not talk about the star loom as a machine that judged civilizations. They talked about a human who stood in the middle of a war and asked everyone to remember who they were. On distant worlds, statues were built, not of a warrior with a raised weapon, not of a ruler on a high throne, but of a simple human figure standing with empty hands, open and steady, facing the stars. And whenever someone asked why humanity was given such a place in the galaxy, the answer was always the same. Because when the moment came to choose power or understanding, they chose to stand between instead of above. The star loom continued to glow in the dark, not as a symbol of control, but as a quiet promise. The galaxy would still struggle. It would still argue. It would still fall and rise again. But now it would not do so alone. And that, more than any weapon or fleet, became humanity's true legacy among the stars.